today's deep dive, we're going to be exploring a really fascinating stack of notes and excerpts sourced from a recently published anonymous memoir. It's called On the Shore.
Yeah, and I have to say, it is an incredibly grounding text because, when we talk about high spiritual states, the cultural assumption is that they read like, dramatic fantasy.
Oh, for sure. Hollywood stuff.
Right. We expect the skies to part. But the author states on the very first page that this is a record of true accounts.
Yeah.
These are things that happened in specific, mundane places to a specific person across the span of just an ordinary human life.
And that's really the core mission of this deep dive today. We want to explore the author's central paradigm-shifting claim, which is that the boundary between the ordinary visible world and the extraordinary is, it's far more permeable than our modern world insists.
It's just so much thinner than we think.
Exactly. And I want to say this directly to you listening right now. Whether you're highly skeptical of this kind of material or deeply curious, or maybe you're just trying to understand what a spiritual awakening actually looks like without the Hollywood production value.
Without all the special effects.
Right.
Yeah.
This deep dive is going to completely demystify the concept for you. We are looking at a life lived fully aware of both sides of that boundary, but without an ounce of performance.
The book really systematically strips away the incense, the chanting, all those expected spiritual aesthetics.
The costumes.
Yeah, the costumes. To show us the actual mechanics of these experiences. It explores how the extraordinary interacts with the mundane, not by overriding it, but by quietly occupying the exact same space.
Usually we think of an encounter with the divine like a highly produced stage play. You need the lighting, the dramatic dialogue.
Right.
But the reality presented in this memoir, it operates a lot more like gravity.
Oh, I like that comparison.
Yeah, it's invisible, it's totally ordinary, completely unannounced. But it possesses the sheer force to literally bend reality itself.
And that invisible force introduces itself really early in the narrative.
Yeah, let's get into the first story, The Flame.
So we meet the protagonist as a 15-year-old boy. He's living on a small island in the Indian Ocean.
Sounds idyllic.
Right. It's a bright, simple morning. He's getting dressed for school. And in the corner of his room, there's a family altar.
Okay.
It holds a small copper tray with sacred ash and a picture of the Hindu child god, Muruga.
And the text notes that this boy has been carrying a really heavy question for weeks, right?
Yes. And it's not a question born of anxiety. It's this intense, almost frustrated need for absolute clarity.
He wants to know what's real.
Exactly. He stands before this picture, lights a small block of camphor on the copper tray, and throws down this mental challenge.
Right. He tells the image, I don't want to be an idiot. To say that you exist when you don't, or to say that you don't when you do. Show me what is real.
It is just the ultimate demand for authenticity.
Yeah, he's not asking for a new bike or something.
Right. He's asking for the baseline truth of the universe. And the response he receives is characterized by just breathtaking economy.
Okay, so what actually happens?
The camphor flame simply goes out. But we have to look closely at the mechanics of how it goes out.
Right, because it's not just a breeze.
Exactly. The flame doesn't flicker. It doesn't bend sideways as if it caught a stray draft. It extinguishes cleanly, instantaneously, and completely.
And the physical environment makes that impossible, right? I mean, the window in the room is closed. The air is entirely still.
Completely still.
And the fine ash sitting on the copper tray hasn't been disturbed by even a fraction of a millimeter.
It's wild. It is a surgical removal of the flame.
So what does he do? Because I would freak out.
Well, testing the parameters of what just happened, he relights the camphor.
Of course. The scientific method.
Right. He waits, and it happens a second time.
Wow.
The exact same clean finality. The exact same undisturbed ash. Whatever responded to his demand did so with absolute precision.
It just did exactly what was asked and nothing more. No spectacle.
Right. An action entirely devoid of ego.
And the aftermath is what completely shatters the typical mystical narrative for me. Because like I said earlier, the boy doesn't fall to his knees or run screaming into the streets.
No, he just finishes getting dressed, picks up his bag, and goes to school.
It's crazy. The author describes carrying this extinguished flame like a physical weight, like a stone in his pocket. He's sitting at a desk, working through conjugated verbs and geometric theorems, acutely aware of this massive secret, while everyone around him is just eating their lunches, as if nothing happened.
Because for everyone else, nothing did happen.
Right.
The text captures the deep isolation of encountering something undeniably real that simply does not fit into the visible world's framework.
But he doesn't keep it to himself entirely. He decides he has to share the weight of this.
Yeah, he waits for his father to come home.
And his father is described as this highly practical, hardworking man. So the boy waits all afternoon, hears his dad walk through the door, exhale from a long day.
We all know that sigh.
Oh, yeah. And then the boy tells him everything. The question he has, the flame dropping dead, the closed window, the ash.
And the father's reaction is just critical to understanding the entire philosophy of the book.
It really is. Let's unpack this. Because he doesn't look at his son with anger or overt disbelief. Right?
No, he looks at him with deep worry. And he simply says, "It's nothing. Don't worry about it."
And that's it.
That is the end of the conversation.
See, in most stories, this is the part where the mentor figures out the boy is the chosen one or whatever and guides him.
Right, exactly.
But here, the father just shuts the door on it entirely. Why does the author highlight this dismissal? It feels so harsh.
Well, the author realizes later that the dismissal wasn't malicious in the slightest. It was a father's love expressing itself as a survival instinct.
Survival instinct. How so?
Think about it. This is a practical man confronted with a glitch in reality that he has absolutely no tools to manage.
True.
His visible, functional world has no conceptual shelf for a miraculously extinguished flame. If he acknowledges it, the structure of his practical life begins to crumble.
Oh, wow. I never thought about it like that.
So to protect his son from the madness of the inexplicable, he just names it nothing.
Wow. And the boy learns right then and there that the visible world demands adherence to its own rules. The extraordinary doesn't need to prove itself to anyone. It just exists. And the boy realizes he's going to have to carry the weight of this reality entirely alone.
So how does a human psyche handle holding that kind of isolating secret for decades?
Yeah, it sounds exhausting.
Right. How do you keep the sheer weight of that truth from crushing you when the rest of the world refuses to acknowledge it?
You don't ignore it.
No, you steer directly into it.
Which brings the narrative to a completely different environment. We jump forward in the timeline here.
Yeah, big jump.
The teenage boy is now an adult, and he has placed himself inside what can only be described as a spiritual pressure cooker.
That's a great way to put it.
He's immersed in the intense volcanic inner work of an ascetic cell in South India.
And the environmental shift is really stark. He is living in a small, bare cell. He sleeps, or rather spends his nights, practicing on a simple metal bed with no mattress.
This is bare metal.
Just the harsh, cool metal. And he is the only foreigner in this particular setting.
Right, the other residents are young men who leave during the day to work ordinary jobs.
Yeah, out in the visible world. Meanwhile, the author is engaged in a deeply consuming, unstructured practice. He is turning his entire locus of attention inward.
And he describes this internal state not as peaceful meditation, right? It's more like a building force.
Exactly. He uses the analogy of being a rock that knew itself to also be a volcano.
Solid on the surface, but underneath.
Underneath, the pressure and heat are rising to a critical point. And it's within this intense internal environment that he experiences a profound vision.
The silver cat.
Yes. The account of the silver cat. It completely dismantles how we typically approach the concept of spiritual progress.
So walk us through the mechanics of this vision. What actually happens?
Well, he's sitting cross-legged on this bare metal bed, eyes closed. There is no specific visualization technique being applied.
He's not like forcing it.
No, he's just maintaining profound stillness. Slowly, a cat appears in his internal vision, but the scale is massive.
How big are we talking?
It is the size of a lion or a leopard, and its composition is striking. It is made entirely of a luminous, solid silver substance.
See, intuitively, a giant animal made of solid metal sounds kind of clunky, right? Like a heavy animatronic machine.
Right, you'd think so. But the author notes that despite its metallic density, the cat moves with absolute fluid grace.
No wasted energy.
Exactly. A portrait of complete economy of motion, and sitting casually on the back of this giant silver cat is Muruga.
The same child god from the picture in his childhood bedroom.
The exact same one. He's just sitting there using this immense, powerful creature as his vehicle.
Okay, so then the vision expands, right? The silver cat is walking down a long corridor.
Yeah, toward a mirror at the far end.
And as it moves, the author notices people lining the sides of the hallway. people he knows from his actual ordinary life.
And their reaction is universally identical. They are pressing themselves flat against the walls, trying to hide,
They're terrified.
gripped by instinctive terror. But it isn't the fear of a predator. They aren't afraid the cat is going to bite them.
What are they afraid of?
They are terrified by the sheer, unadulterated power radiating from the creature, an energetic force that vastly exceeds their comfortable category of the familiar.
And then we hit the climax of the vision. Muruga reaches down and gently touches the right side of the silver cat's face.
Yes.
And in that precise fraction of a second, the author is hit with a rush of indescribable bliss. Because as the child God touches the cat, the author realizes with absolute certainty, he is the silver cat.
The implications of that realization are just staggering.
Here's where it gets really interesting, especially if you spend any time focused on self-improvement.
Right.
Because we usually think of spiritual or mental development as upgrading our software. You read a new book, you adopt a new philosophy, you try to reprogram your mindset.
Constantly trying to write better code for your brain.
Exactly. But what this vision reveals is something entirely different. The author realizes he isn't upgrading the software. He is the actual hardware. He is the vehicle itself.
And the physical sensation of this realization is overwhelming. The text details how his physical body, the ordinary flesh and bone sitting on that uncomfortable metal bed, feels a rush of electricity so intense it barely feels capable of containing the charge.
But wait, so what does this all mean for his physical ordinary body?
Okay.
If he realizes he is this luminous vessel of divine power, does he just detach from reality?
Float away into a mystical dissociation?
Yeah, exactly. Is he just unable to function in the real world anymore?
The text explicitly addresses this. And the realization means the exact opposite of floating away.
Really?
Yeah. He notes that he became profoundly aware of the overwhelming bliss of the vision and the hard physical reality of his body sitting on the metal bed at the exact same moment.
Yeah. So they coexist.
Completely. He doesn't leave his body behind to access the divine. The ordinary sensation of the metal and the extraordinary reality of the silver cat occupy the same space simultaneously.
Wow.
The vision is the internal confirmation that the divine force had been riding him, utilizing him as a vehicle all along.
So the hardware is fundamentally changed.
Yeah.
And it bleeds into his physical reality, right?
Oh, absolutely. Years later, people who have absolutely no knowledge of this ascetic period will casually remark to him that he walks like a cat.
That's incredible. He literally carries that economy of motion, that fluid grace of the heavy silver substance in his everyday physical movements.
Because deep spiritual integration isn't about escaping the physical world. It isn't about ascending to a higher plane and leaving the mundane behind.
Right.
It is about embodying the extraordinary incredibly densely within the physical realm. His actual structure became something else entirely.
Okay, so then what happens when a person carrying this incredibly dense, integrated, almost volcanic internal power leaves the ascetic cell?
This is where the story gets really dramatic.
Yeah, how does that transformed hardware interact with the cynical, highly distracted modern world? The narrative takes us from the isolated silence of South India to the most mundane, sterile space imaginable.
An airport waiting area.
Yes, specifically the Bombay airport. And it is the perfect crucible for this collision of worlds.
The